So I got a comment on one of my previous shorts with someone asking me to help them speak like me. So here's my full guide to speaking to help our brother. The goal of this guide is for you to be able to speak in a way that makes other people want to listen to you and feel like they have to shut the fuck up when you're speaking. This guide is going to teach you how to exactly do that. First order of business, let's talk about why speaking as a skill is so incredibly important. First of all, your speaking style, the way you speak, is one of the biggest things that other people use to build their beliefs and opinions about you. When you meet someone for the first time, they immediately construct an image of you and your character in their mind. And since you guys have just met, the only things that have actually happened is that, number one, you've seen each other, and number two, you've talked to each other. Maybe you've both smelled each other, but we're not going to go into all of that. So since your speaking style and your voice are so important, if you want to come off to other people as a more confident masculine man, you just need to sound like a more confident masculine man, and then people will be convinced that you are one. Of course, you can also look like one by going to the gym and lifting weights and building muscle, which I absolutely think you should do anyway. But if you are a skinny, weak little pussy, you can at least cover that up by wearing TikTok boy style baggy clothes. But if your voice sounds like a weak little pussy, then you can't really cover that up. What are you gonna do? Stop talking? Being skilled at speaking also helps you win arguments and persuade people, because in these types of situations, it's usually not about what you say as much as it is about how you say it. Because people in general are more influenced by their emotions than they are by actual words. People simply care more about how you make them feel rather than what you actually tell them. There's a part in Brian Tracy's The Psychology of Selling book where he says that people often don't buy products that they want just because they don't like the salesperson. And since selling is basically all about speaking to others in a way that makes them like you, we can apply that to this. If you speak like a little bitch, a little wimp, more masculine men will lose respect for you and more feminine women will dry up. The next thing I want you to do in this guide, literally just do it. Take out a piece of paper and a pencil, or go on the notes app on your phone or computer or whatever. Do that right now. And I want you to free write, maybe bullet points, a list of problems that you see with the way that you currently speak. Maybe you can write stuff like, I'm boring to talk to, I have no emotion when I speak, or people always talk over me. Just write down a list of all the problems that you know about how you speak. And then pause this video and come back to it when you're done with that list. Now that you've written all of those down, you know exactly what to focus on in this guide. Ideally, this guide should help you solve all of those problems. But if there's anything that I miss or anything that I didn't cover or solve, leave them in the comments below so that I can make a part 2 to this guide answering your questions. First, let me tell you my story really quick. As you know, I'm brown, so I participated in a bunch of Indian singing competitions. And these weren't like national level shit or anything. It was just normal, local level Indian singing competitions. And because I went to enough of them, I never really had stage fright. And that made me really good at school presentations. I would say in my class, I was definitely one of the best at giving project presentations. You know, the ones where you go up in front of all the students and you have like a little slideshow next to you and you just talk to them and you present the information on the slides. I was very good at that. So I was a very confident speaker in that area, but not necessarily in general. I wasn't very confident in just talking to people normally and having conversations and socializing. I was often the guy in the group who wasn't really taken that seriously, and people didn't really respect me. People would always talk over me, and I never won a single argument, all the way to the point that I would just let people make fun of me without arguing back, because I knew that if I started an argument, I would lose. Basically, I was a fucking loser. Before I went to college though, in the summer before and near the end of senior year, I learned a lot more about how to speak to people in general. A lot of my learning was through YouTube videos like this one, but I also went out in public and practiced actually speaking to people So much that by the time I went to college, I was like a fucking social animal. I would go talk to people left and right, and I realized that people would listen to me more, and more people respected me. It was life changing, and I couldn't have done any of it without the tips I'm about to give to you in this guide. So the first aspect of speaking is pretty obvious. It's confidence. People always say that you should speak confidently, but what does that actually mean? Speaking confidently basically means that you trust your words. It's not really the words you say that matter that much, it's your trust in them. You must have 100% certainty with the words that you say. And the biggest way to show confidence to a listener is by speaking clearly, speaking with clarity. They should hear every single word you say with complete clarity, because then they know that you have decided to choose those words and put them out into the universe with no second guessing. A man who second guesses his words while speaking ends up stuttering, mumbling like a little pussy because he's like, because he kind of wants to say it and he kind of doesn't at the same time, and he doesn't really know if he should say it out loud, so he kind of says it quietly. Maybe the person will hear it, maybe the person won't. It's just all characteristics of a weak man who doesn't trust his words. In other words, he doesn't trust himself. If you don't trust yourself and your judgment and your words, how can you expect other people to trust you and your judgments and your words? One of the biggest laws of masculinity is that you must always be your biggest supporter. You must always believe in yourself more than anyone else on this earth does. If you are not that type of man, then it shows in your voice. You end up mumbling and stuttering. And by the way, I'm not dissing people with an actual stuttering problem. That's a different story. I'm talking about stuttering in the way that little pussies do it. Like the whole, but he touched me first. Like that fucking like weak pussy little man energy. And also, even if you don't fully believe it, you can convince someone else to believe it if you sound like you fully believe it. Like, imagine you didn't know that the earth was round, and I'm here telling you, of course the earth is flat. Which idiot told you that the earth is round? Look around you, the whole ground is fucking flat. How do you think airplanes get from here to Russia? What, you think they circle around the fucking earth? You would feel it then! Of course it's flat! Look around you, it's common sense! What? There's a picture saying the earth was round? How do you know it's not an illustration? How do you know that's even real? How do you know? They could have just drawn it and showed it to us. We don't know that it's round. How could you trust that picture that they put in the news? Of course the scientists are making money off of making us believe that the earth is round. That's why they keep preaching it. Why are you trusting these fucking scientists? They're all liars. Okay, so you probably aren't convinced that the earth is flat after hearing me say that, because that take is a bit too hot, and also my acting isn't that great. But I'm hoping that, I think maybe probably 1% of your brain was a little bit convinced that the earth might be flat. If you didn't know the earth was round, you probably would have been convinced that the earth is flat, because of how much trust and confidence I had in my words. Basically, if you're not gonna talk with 100% clarity and conviction, then you're better off not talking at all. The next aspect of speaking is force. And I've already kind of showed what force looks like in that flat earth example, because that example had both confidence and force. But the two are different, because you can have 100% clarity in your words and have complete trust in them. But without force, it sounds kind of boring. It sounds like you need to go to the gym. Going to the gym is really important for muscle, and getting muscle helps you get girls and get respect from guys. You know how even though I'm clear with my words, it still sounds kind of boring? That's because there's no force. If I add force, it sounds like, you need to go to the gym. Going to the gym helps you build muscle. When you have a lot of muscle, more girls like you and more guys respect you. So that sounds a lot more like how I usually talk, and you're probably gonna be more convinced to go to the gym if I talk with force than if I speak without force. Just like the biggest way to show confidence is clarity, the biggest way to show force to a listener is volume, but more specifically, selective volume. Don't just say everything extremely loudly, because then your words won't punch. You need to say loudly only the important words and phrases. This usually happens naturally, and all you have to do is just make the louder parts louder, and that generates force. But if you're one of those monotone guys that just speak every single word with the exact same volume, with no volume changes at all, then I'll give you a few pointers on how to do this. A few types of words or phrases that you say louder are usually people, words like you, he, she, diddy, whoever you're talking about. Words that show degree, like more, really, a lot, less, barely. Adjectives like good, bad, small, big, veiny, long, girthy, green, words like that. Numbers or statistics like 50%, 1 million people, first, 1,000 bodies in one day, and also curse words or insults like fuck, bitch, shit, idiot, loser. You get the gist. Those are the types of words that are usually emphasized when speaking, and you say those words with greater volume to generate force. The reason why force is so important is that it makes people pay attention to you. It adds that bang to your voice that makes people like David Goggins and Andrew Tate very convincing and motivating speakers. For example, if I called you a bitch, you wouldn't be that pissed off. But if I called you a bitch, then now you're probably going to be more pissed off. That's the power of force. As important as selective volume is, there's still probably a lot of you out there that just need to raise the master volume and speak louder in general. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that speak like, oh, hello, how are you doing today? Like, just fucking speak louder. You know that girl in the class that when the teacher calls on her to read something off a book or whatever, she starts reading and not even the person next to her can hear what she's saying. And the teacher has to tell her to speak up like 16 times before it's audible. If you're one of those people, I have a tip for you that may help. To speak louder, you don't actually have to think about raising the volume of your voice. You just need to open your mouth more when you speak. The problem with a lot of these quiet speakers is that they don't open their mouths enough. So if you don't open your mouth enough, then only some of the sound will get out into the air through your tiny ass mouth. This is actually something I learned from my singing class. I would always try to have perfect pitch, but I wouldn't open my mouth enough when I sang. So when I would sing, I would have nice pitch, but I would be too quiet. And it took me some good hard practice to actually open my mouth more when I sang, because honestly, I felt doing that was kind of cringe. And I think that might be the same problem that you quiet mumblers have. Maybe you find it cringe to open your mouth more and hear your full voice. Maybe you don't like your voice that much. But the problem is, you will always sound 100% more like a loser if you speak in this quiet, mumbly way than if you just open your mouth and let your full voice out. You have to let it out. It is your duty to do that. It is your duty to move through the earth with an unshakable force that is expressed by every single part of your body, including your mouth. It is your duty to speak with power. And anyway, even if you don't like your voice, you can always adjust it and improve it with continued speaking and practice. But you can't do that at all if you don't open your mouth and just try letting your full sound out first. You have to do this. You have to get over your fear and just do it. I can promise you no one gives a fuck if your voice is too high or too low or too lispy or too nerdy. They're more concerned with what they're gonna have for dinner tonight. And anyway, if they make fun of you for something you can't control, they shouldn't be in your life anyway. You're a grown-ass man, just cut them out. The next aspect of speaking like a man is deepness. If you're insecure about your voice being too high, then this part will definitely help you. A man's deep voice is a sign of his masculinity, and also it's pretty sexy. It makes women wet. But the type of deep voice that you're probably thinking about is probably too low for your current capacity. When you think about deepness, please do not think about these fucking boyfriend ASMR creators who basically make smut and start growling and purring in the middle of their videos. I'm telling you, you do not need to sound that deep. Do not worry. What I want you to do is just practice speaking a little bit lower than your current voice. I've been doing this for some time. I don't know if there's that much of a difference, but I think I can see a pretty sizable difference between how I speak right now versus how I did in my previous videos. They see you as a bad person and they're gonna call you one just because you... It's not that much deeper now, but it's just a little bit deeper because I know that if I go too deep, I'll sound like I'm trying too hard and I'll struggle to maintain that pitch. This pitch that I'm speaking at right now is very easy for me to maintain because I've practiced it for quite a while. So the tip I'm gonna give you here for making your voice sound lower is first say something. Just say anything. Just say hello. When you speak, you can kind of feel a sensation in your throat, right? A little sensation, like something, right? Just think about it. You can feel a sensation in your throat. And chances are, it's probably in the upper half of your throat, right? That makes sense. So what I want you to do is I want you to deepen your voice so that the sensation goes a bit deeper in your throat. I want you to sound a little bit deeper. Just try speaking a little bit deeper so that the sensation feels lower in your throat. Just a little bit. Don't go too much down your throat and try to speak too deeply because then you'll know because your throat will start hurting a little bit. Just move it from your natural voice and just get a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. And then at some points, you're gonna find a comfortable spot where your voice can just rest there and it doesn't hurt or anything. It just feels nice and it also sounds a little bit lower than it was before. I hope that tip works for you because it certainly worked for me. And then you just want to practice speaking with that slightly lower pitch a lot of the time. And then at some point, it's just going to be natural and your voice will just come out like that without you having to think that much. Another tip I can give you here is downward inflection. You probably heard it from other people before, and I'm not going to go too much into it, but it basically means that you lower your pitch near the end of a sentence. You see how I just did that right now? You lower your pitch near the end of a sentence. You see that? So because I sound a little bit lower at the end of the sentence, it sounds a lot more masculine and it sounds a little bit more sexy. On the other hand, if you speak with upward inflection, you speak like a waiter does. Is everything all right here? Like, you know how it goes up to sound more friendly? That's not what you want to do. You want to come off as a masculine, dominant man, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to do downward inflection. You're going to move your pitch downward near the end of a sentence. Another thing I want you to keep track of while deepening your voice is the bass in your voice. I think the best way to define the bass in your voice is, you know how when you practice speaking deeper, you can hear a slight background voice behind your voice that sounds a lot deeper? That is the bass in your voice, and it makes you sound so much more masculine, and it makes your voice also sound deeper, and you sound less like a feminine little boy. It also adds power to your voice. You know how if there's a really good rap beat and you boost the bass up, it sounds really good, like it hits really fucking hard? That's the type of effect that I'm talking about. It makes your voice sound so much more powerful, and it also adds to the sexiness of your voice. Okay, so far we've covered the 3 basics of speaking like a man, and that is confidence, force, and deepness. Now, the tips I'm about to give you don't really have that much to do with the sound of your voice, but they're more so speaking accessories that will still definitely help you in your speaking. The first thing I'll tell you is that using and while you speak is absolutely pussy behavior. I know it's very hard to just cut all of them out. Even I make mistakes with and sometimes, but you need to try avoiding it as much as possible because those sounds ruin your sentences and make it sound like you have less trust in your words. It reduces the confidence in your speaking. And I know you probably say and not necessarily because you lack trust in your words, but more because you're thinking about what to say next. So I'll tell you here, when you're in the process of thinking about what to say next, it is better to be quiet and just shut the fuck up instead of saying and Just be quiet until you've gathered your thoughts, and then you can say your next words with complete certainty. And I know it's hard to cut out all of your ums and uhs, but just cutting them down by like 20% will make a huge difference in the way people view you and your words. Because they'll see that you are not scared of silence. You are not scared with having nothing to say at all for the next few seconds. You're okay with the brief pause. If you instead fill the silence with your ums and uhs, the listener will subconsciously think, they can't really help it, they'll subconsciously think that you are just talking at this point to fill silence and your words don't really carry that much value. Maybe you have a friend that says and very often. You probably don't take him as seriously as your other friends, and you probably don't have that much trust in him either. Think about me. If you watched my video to this far in the video, I can basically guess that you have some trust in me and you find my advice valuable. But I can guarantee you that if I spoke more like being skilled in speaking also helps you, persuade people and If I talked like that, you would have clicked off a long time ago. And sure, I can talk like this without ums and uhs, because I have a script. If I didn't have a script, I would probably also have trouble not saying and I would probably say them a few times. But that's because I'm the only one talking here for more than 30 minutes trying to teach you a skill. That takes significantly more brain power than it does to have a normal conversation with your friends. There's really no excuse for you to talk like, the football game was that was crazy. The quarterback, he got injured or something. If you speak like that, then of course no one's gonna take you seriously. Halfway through your statement, someone is going to cut you off. So instead, just be quiet until you're ready to speak with absolute conviction and confidence. Also, another thing. Cursing. I personally love cursing, as you can tell, because it allows me to pack so much passion into my words, either in the direction of anger or excitement. For example, if I really hate something, I'll say I fucking hate it. If I really love something, I'll say I fucking love it. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a bad thing to curse, especially in these videos, because I'm not here to comfort you and baby you. I'm here to teach you skills that you must know as a man on self-improvement, and you better fucking listen. I probably curse a bit too much though, and I wouldn't really recommend cursing every sentence, but to just keep some curse words in your brain's word box, just to use when you're really passionate or you have really strong feelings about something, either positively or negatively. There's nothing wrong with telling your friend that he's a weak fuck and he needs to go to the gym right now before his wife gets fucked by Chad. There's no problem telling him that. That just shows that you care about him and his future success. He'll finally get off league and go to the gym now. Next thing, don't talk to other people like you're scared of offending them. People like people who are nice to them, but they will get bored if you're just a yes man, or if you talk like the other person is better than you. Never put other people on pedestals. It is the stupidest thing you can do. If someone says something that you don't agree with, tell them that. Don't just laugh it off and say, "Hi, yeah, you're right," just because you're a little pussy and you're scared of offending them. Don't be a little bitch. Always stick to your own beliefs and values, even when you're talking to a girl that you like. She can sense when you're just bullshitting just to please her, and she will lose attraction to you, because it's so much more attractive for a man to hold his own frame and stand by his own code, no matter who he's talking to, and not just switch up for someone else. If you're one of those guys who are always submissive in conversations and puts literally everyone up on a pedestal, you might need to mentally put yourself on a pedestal and believe that you are better than everyone else first just to even out your mindset. This is what I did for some time when I was struggling more with self-confidence, and it absolutely works. So the best thing you can do to establish equality or even slight dominance in a conversation is maintaining eye contact. Most people think about eye contact the wrong way. They think that you're just supposed to stare at them in the eyes while talking to them. But obviously you know how that's gonna look. It's gonna look kind of creepy, right? What you should actually do is look at 3 spots on the other person's face. The first one is their left eye, so on your left, then their right eye, and then their nose. And just cycle between those 3 spots slowly. Look at their left eye first, then their right eye, then their nose, and then back to the left eye, and then just repeat that cycle to maintain eye contact in a more natural looking way. And don't switch spots super fast, just do it very slowly, very gradually. Maybe every 4 to 5 seconds, switch spots. I know it sounds kind of weird to do in practice, but I'm telling you, as you continue and practice doing that, at some point it will become more natural, and you won't have to think about doing it anymore. The importance of maintaining eye contact is that it shows the other person that you are confident and comfortable with looking at them while speaking to them. If the other person holds eye contact with you, then you are both equals in the conversation. But if the other person actually doesn't hold as much eye contact as you do, and they get a little bit nervous by how much eye contact you're holding with them, this is probably more likely to happen because more people nowadays have lower self-confidence. That would mean that you're dominating the conversation, which is also good. In any conversation, you should either be equal with or dominate the other person in the conversation, but never allow yourself to be the submissive one. The last thing I want to talk about is facial expression and body language, and these two are incredibly important in speaking because they both add emotion to your voice and they also make you look more free while speaking. First, let's talk about facial expression. Facial expression basically changes how your voice comes off. For example, if I smile, then you can literally hear my smile, right? You can hear me smiling, kind of. And if I'm pissed, then you can hear my piss. So make sure your facial expressions match your emotions when you're speaking. If you're talking about something that makes you happy, smile, right, when you talk. And if you're talking about something that pisses you off, then your face should look pissed off. Facial expression usually happens naturally while you speak, but there's a lot of people who talk with absolutely no facial expression at all because, they feel like, I'm a man and I'm not supposed to show emotion. Don't get me wrong, I am an absolute supporter of emotional control and stoicism. What the fuck, I'm a self-improvement YouTuber. But it's not like men are not supposed to have any emotions at all. The emotions that can be transformed into productivity are extremely important. For example, crying in front of people and showing a bunch of sadness to others probably won't solve your problem, right? You'll just end up looking like a little pussy. But anger is powerful. Anger can get someone to turn their whole life around. Joy is powerful too. Even the tribal cavemen celebrated and they showed joy when they had a successful hunt, right? It's not a trait of weak men. Men who feel absolutely nothing at all are actually the fucking pathetic losers. They're the men who will just sit at home all day and just indulge in bad habits because they don't give a fuck about their lives anymore. Those guys are the fucking losers. Even feeling a sense of duty and responsibility for becoming a successful, strong, powerful man is a form of emotion. It's a feeling. It drives you to become that man. And that shows through your face and your voice. Now, body language. The importance of body language is that it allows you to show interest and further emphasize things. It also allows you to look like a human and not a fucking robot. Most body language can be done with your hands. Using your hands while speaking allows you to add emphasis and show interest in whatever you're speaking about. It doesn't matter what type of hand movements you do, there's a billion options for that. But the important thing here is that your hand movements sync with your words. It's like me saying, the way the time machine works is that you just step in, you turn the dial to the year that you want to go back to, you click the button, and then in 5 seconds, you're there. You see how I look a little bit more interested in what I'm talking about, and it's also easier to understand what I'm saying when I use my hands. I did a couple slight hand movements that synced with my words. And also, it didn't really matter what the hand movements were, except for the turn the dial in the 5 seconds. Look, doing these action movements, like the turning the dial in the 5 seconds, to show more explanation and make the explanation more clear is great and all. But don't turn this shit into fucking charades. I've heard people say that when you talk to others, your hands should represent every single fucking word that you say. Like, I went on a run this morning and then I drove to the bank to get some money. Like, you look fucking stupid doing that. You look like an ASL translator. Don't overdo it. Just use random hand gestures most of the time, and then you can throw in a charades looking one, as long as it's simple or the words are not enough to explain it. Another body language hack that I want to give you in this guide is that people love secrets. More specifically, people love feeling like they're being told a secret, even if what they're being told is not a secret at all, because it makes them feel special. It makes them feel like they're hearing very special information that only a select few people get to hear. The way to create this effect with your body language is by just moving a little bit closer, not like super fucking close, but just a little bit closer, and then lean in a little bit towards them, kind of like you're telling them a secret. This makes the other person feel like they're about to get some special information that you trust them to have. When another person feels like you trust them, they're more likely to trust you too. And you don't have to do this just for secrets. You can do it for anything that's surprising, interesting, or important. That might not even be a secret at all, but they'll still feel special. So let's do a quick overview of what we've discussed in this guide. The 3 basic aspects of speaking like a man are confidence, force, and deepness. Show confidence through clarity, force through selective volume, and deepness obviously through practice and bass. Avoid and because they both make you look like a little pussy. Curse to show strong feelings and passion. Establish equality or dominance in a conversation by maintaining eye contact using the 3-point method that we talked about. Match your face to the emotions that you have based on whatever you're talking about. Use body language to show interest and emphasis, and you can also use that secret strategy that we just talked about to build trust. The goal of this guide is for you to be able to speak in such a way that other people want to listen to you and don't interrupt you while you speak. I guarantee you that everything I taught in this guide will help you do exactly that. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that I missed in your list that you wrote at the beginning of this video, and I'll make a part 2 to this video addressing those. I also noticed that in this video, I talked more about speaking to people in context of conversation, but let me know in the comments if you want me to make a guide to presenting as well. And as always, this video won't change your life. You will. We're back.